Hey, boys and girls, how are y'all doing? I'm really excited about our reading this week because we are studying on poetry. And you know how much I really enjoy poetry, and we've only got to study it really for, I think there was 2 weeks we really got to study on poetry, and it's one of my favorites. I love it. So I'm really excited. And this week we're going to talk about, especially today, we're going to talk about humorous poetry. So for 2 or 3 days, what we're going to do is we'll get on and we'll do some assignments, and there'll be more reading related to our poetry and some humorous poems and things like that. And then for probably 2 or 3 days, you're going to pull in some science that you're going to do some reading with, okay? Kind of like we did last week with the Native Americans, okay? So for the first couple of days, we're going to do some poetry, but I think you're going to really enjoy it. It's fun, okay? So this one, as you can see on our picture, our essential question this week is what makes you laugh? And I love that. There's a lot that makes me laugh, and I have learned there is a lot that makes you guys laugh. And I miss hearing you all laugh and have a good time in class. But what I want you to do is think about that. It says read this humorous poem about a lively classroom pet. And so humorous, of course, is funny, just another word for something that's really funny. And we're going to learn about a fun classroom pet. And I think you can already tell what that classroom pet was, okay? So remember, not all poetry has rhyming words. So I want you to look and see if you think the last line, if we have a pattern that we can see, if you see rhyming lines or if you see rhyming words at the ends of our lines, or if this is one of them that doesn't have to have rhyming words, okay? So let's read it together. It's called Ollie's Escape. I'm going to zoom in so you can see it a little bit better, okay? Said Ollie escaped in the classroom, and that was an awful mistake. It would have been folly to try and catch Ollie, since Ollie's a 7-foot snake. Now, if you didn't know what folly meant, you could look at the clues in that sentence because it says, since he's a 7-foot snake, do you think that's a good idea or a bad idea? Probably not a good idea. He wiggled his way towards the teacher, who jumped on her desk with a scream. Faster and faster, he squiggled right past her. Old Ollie was picking up steam. The rest of us ran for the closet as Ollie slid right out the door. We heard a loud squall as he entered the hall. He's a difficult snake to ignore. He slithered his way to the office as teachers jumped out of his way, but Principal Poole is the boss of this school. He wondered just what he would say. It didn't take long for an answer. In fact, he decided to scoot. He burst through the door with a terrified roar and a 7-foot snake in pursuit. Ollie the snake was excited, and we, of course, thought it was fun to see teachers hiding while Ollie was sliding and Principal Poole on the run. They ordered us out of the building, and somebody called the police. There were doctors and vets and men with big nets to make sure the problem would cease. But Ollie at last was exhausted. He snaked his way back to his den. When they searched all around, he was finally found, curled up, asleep in his pen. So little Ollie ran away, caused a crazy day, and then they found him right back in his pen where he should have been the whole time. By the way, if we ever had a classroom pet, would not be a snake. Okay, so what we're working on this week is, if you'll look right up here, is doing a summary. Okay, so it says use important details from Ollie's escape to summarize the poem. Information in your point of view chart may help you. And we could draw this on the board together and look, but we're just going to talk through it together today. Now, when we think of a summary, sometimes we struggle with putting in details that are not crucial, super important, or the main ideas and the main details of the story. So, in other words, would it be important for me to talk about that what color shirt Principal Poole has on in the picture? That's not an important event in my story, okay? what you always want to list are the most important details, okay? And sometimes we get distracted by something that maybe catches our eye in a picture or by something that just stood out to us. But you always have to keep in mind that when we summarize something, that you want to only include the most important facts, okay? So if I were going to summarize this, of course you always want to do it. Last week we talked about sequencing, where you tell about first, and then we use those transitional words where you say first, then, or later, and then finally, or at last, where we're kind of building up a time sequence in our head. So what we could say is, well, first, we had a snake that was a class pet, and he got loose inside the school. Okay, that would be a wonderful first sentence if we were just going to summarize this really quickly. And then you could say that, the principal had tried to help, and even the policeman had to come, and the vets. And then finally, they ordered us to leave school. We had to all evacuate the building for them to, for the police and the vets and the all the doctors and vets to go in and search for him. And then you could say lastly, or at last, they found Ollie asleep back inside his pen after he had a fun and crazy day. So remember, whenever we do a summary, that you always want to break it down by trying to list those important facts, okay? If I just hop over here and I just pick a sentence that says, let's see, Ollie was exhausted. Okay, now if I just put that in there and I don't tell, it's got to be something crucial to the story. I could have said, lastly, he was so exhausted that he wanted to rest and goes back to his pen. That makes sense. But sometimes when we summarize, somebody will throw in a sentence that I have no idea where that's coming from or why we're using it as important details. And you could have supported it if you backed it up with something else, okay? So just make sure whenever we're working on a summary that you are always trying to use your most important details that you think the reader needs to know, okay? Or me, the teacher, needs to know, whoever you're summarizing for, okay? And I wanted us to look down here. I wanted to go over this first and I forgot. It says, what did the poet do that made you laugh? Okay. So what about this did he try to do that would make us laugh? He tried to make it, he made it really funny about telling how he scared the principal and scared the teacher. So he's relating to the students, really. He's, of course, it's funny to all the students if the teacher jumps up on a desk. If I had other teachers writing this story, they probably wouldn't have done it in a funny way. They would have been like, that poor, pitiful teacher had to climb up on her desk, and it's a wonder she didn't break her neck. So that was funny. And then it was even funnier when we got to see where he ended up in the end after all this crazy mess he caused. And then the second question says, what other kinds of things make people laugh? So this is where you just kind of can relate this to what you've seen. What do you see that makes you laugh? What makes your parents laugh? What makes, maybe a lot of you have siblings, I know, and maybe you know something that makes them laugh. So later in the week, we're going to have a chance to write our own little bit of poetry. We're not going to have to write, this was 2 pages, and it was a very good poem, but it's a longer poem for us. I'm not going to make you write something that big, but you may have an opportunity soon to write your own poetry. So be thinking about what makes them laugh. If we write a humorous piece of poetry, be thinking about what makes sister laugh or what makes your dad laugh, and what you think you could write about, okay? Just a little hint for later in the week. All right, so what you're going to do is you are going to now go on to Google Classroom, and you're going to read a poem, and you're going to summarize it. Okay, just like I showed you how to do. You're going to just use important details, and you can use those transitional words that we've learned. You can do first, second, then if you need to. But I want you to give me at least, I would say at least, I think third graders can do 4 or 5 sentences for a summary. And you're going to have a fun little poem. that you're going to read, and then I want you to summarize it and send it in to me. Remember, when you summarize, you don't have to give me all of the details, and you're not giving me the details that aren't even that important. You're just going to give me the important facts, okay, the things you think I need to know, okay? So turn that in to me, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.